Welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today. If you're involved in higher education, if you do industry training, or maybe you're a student trying to map out your future, you've probably heard the chatter about some pretty massive policy shifts recently. Well, today our main objective is diving right in and demystifying a huge new framework, the Apprenticeship Embedded Degree Programme Guidelines, or just AEDP for short. We're going to look closely at the official University Grants Commission documents, along with the specific rollout mandated by the Maharashtra state government, and figure out exactly how this whole thing works. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We'll start by looking at bridging the skill gap, then formally introduce the AEDP, unpack the degree structure and duration, dive right into credits, stipends, and assessment, and finally wrap up with the tripartite agreement. By the end of this, we'll have broken down a very dense policy into clear, actionable steps. So, part 1, bridging the skill gap and exactly why the AEDP exists in the first place. Before we get bogged down in the rules and regulations, we really need to understand the fundamental why behind all this. It all starts with one massive question. How do we actually bridge the gap between classroom theory and industry reality? For years, employers have literally been pointing out this huge disconnect between what we learn in a university lecture hall and what is actually needed on the factory floor or in the corporate office. The National Education Policy of 2020 completely recognized this education employability gap. The NEP essentially said, look, vocational and general education can't live in separate silos anymore. It mandated a massive shift toward a much more holistic, experiential, and flexible learning environment. And the government's direct answer to that exact problem is the official Maharashtra state government resolution for the AEDP rollout from April 2024. This essentially takes the UGC's broader vision and transforms it into a very concrete, hard and fast directive for universities across the state. So we know the problem, and we know the government has issued a mandate to fix it. Now it's time to define exactly what this solution actually is. Let's move to Section 2. Introducing the AEDP. What is it? AEDP stands for the Apprenticeship Embedded Degree Programme. Simply put, it's an undergrad program where pursuing practical, on-the-job apprenticeship training is an integrated, mandatory component of the degree. And I really want to hit hard on that word, integrated. This isn't just some summer internship you do on the side or an extracurricular activity to pad your resume. This is literally your degree. The on-the-job sweat equity you put in at a company actively counts toward your university graduation. But here's the catch. Not just any institution can wake up tomorrow and decide they want to offer this. A higher educational institution, or HEI, has to meet some pretty strict eligibility criteria set by the UGC. To even get in the game, the university has to be ranked in the National University category by the NIRF, that's the National Institutional Ranking Framework, or they must possess a valid grade or score from the NAC Accreditation Board, or at the absolute very least, hold a valid basic NAC accreditation. It's all about quality control here. The framework is built to ensure that only established, properly accredited institutions are managing these vital industry partnerships. Okay. Let's see how this actually builds into the timeline of a student's academic life. Moving on to Section 3, degree structure and duration, mapping the timeline. What's really interesting about the structure is how the time commitment is mapped out. The overall duration of the undergraduate program doesn't actually change. A 3-year degree stays a 3-year degree, but look at the embedded time. For a 3-year undergrad program, a minimum of 1 full semester must be spent on the apprenticeship, maxing out at 3 semesters. And for a 4-year degree, it's a minimum of 2 semesters and a maximum of 4. So we are talking about a massive chunk of your degree spent actively working out in the industry. Now, there is a very specific, absolutely crucial scheduling rule the UGC enforces. Students are absolutely not allowed to undertake their apprenticeship in semester 1. Why? Well, they need to build that theoretical academic foundation first. Makes sense, right? However, the final semester of the AEDP absolutely must be dedicated to the apprenticeship. This is a brilliant design so that a student transitions directly from their final stretch of on-the-job training straight into the workforce as a highly employable graduate. Which naturally brings us to the most pressing questions I'm sure every student and administrator is asking right now. How do I get graded and how do I get paid? Let's break that down in Section 4, credits, stipends, and assessment. The number 10. According to the guidelines, 10 is the exact number of academic credits a student earns for a standard 3-month apprenticeship. So what's crucial here is that the policy has totally shifted away from calculating, abstract, notional hours
and instead calculates credits based on your actual duration spent working. You work for 3 months, boom, you earn 10 credits toward your degree.
And hey, while you earn those credits, you also earn a stipend. The UGC actually gives universities two distinct pathways to make sure students are financially supported during all this. Pathway 1 is a direct partnership, where the stipend is paid directly by the industry or establishment, guided by the Apprentice Act of 1961. The second option is via the NATS portal. NATS stands for the National Apprenticeship Training Scheme. If you're registered there, the stipend is paid by the government, as applicable under that specific scheme. Either way, the apprentice is legally entitled to be paid for their hard work.
And the evaluation structure brilliantly illustrates how the final assessment isn't just, one big final exam, it is a true team effort. On average, 35% of the evaluation comes directly from the industry. They are looking at your attendance, your punctuality, and your actual workplace skills. Another 35% comes from a university faculty mentor who actually conducts on-site visits to monitor the student in action. And that remaining 30%? That's evaluated back at the university campus through a final seminar presentation and a viva voce. It's essentially a perfectly balanced evaluation of theory and practice.
So we have the curriculum, we have the timelines, the pay, and the grades. But to make this entire operation run smoothly and, most importantly, legally, we need Section 5, the tripartite agreement, the legal backbone. The guidelines state that to enter an AEDP engagement, a tripartite agreement is absolutely mandatory. It's a legally binding contract that specifies the exact roles and responsibilities of all three parties involved: the recognized higher educational institution, the industry establishment, and the student apprentice. I mean, this agreement really is the absolute backbone of the AEDP guidelines. It ensures expectations are set in stone from day one, so nobody drops the ball. Let's walk through the heavy lifting required from each of these three parties really quickly. Step 1, the industry. They are legally required to provide a safe training environment, stick to standard working hours, grant leave, and, pay those monthly stipends on time. Step 2, the HEI. The university has to co-design the curriculum, facilitate those faculty mentor assessments, and, interestingly enough, they have to track the employment outcomes of their graduates for at least 1 full year after graduation. Finally, Step 3, the apprentice. The student simply has to maintain workplace discipline, complete their training hours, and pass both the industry and academic assessments. If all three of these players do their part, that skill gap we talked about, it officially shrinks. Bringing this all back to the specific context of Maharashtra, the state government resolution has made absolutely sure this isn't just theory anymore. For the upcoming 2025-26 academic year, there is a hard mandate. Every participating non-agricultural university must enroll a minimum of 300 students into the AEDP. Plus, rolling this out requires official formal approval from the university's academic council. So the state is actively pushing institutions to adopt this framework right now. And as a quick reminder, literally everything we've discussed today, from the strict eligibility criteria to the credit mechanisms, all the way down to that tripartite agreement itself, is derived directly from these official UGC and state government documents. It is a highly structured, carefully regulated pathway that is designed to completely overhaul the undergraduate experience as we know it. With states like Maharashtra pioneering this aggressive rollout and mandating these minimum enrollments, the landscape of higher education is shifting incredibly fast. Whether you are a student, a faculty member, or an industry leader, the AEDP is truly set to redefine how we learn and how we work. So the only question left to ask is, with all this in motion, how quickly will your institution adapt to bridge the gap?